Hello everyone and welcome to this presentation on food choice influence. I am your instructor, Chris Mattia, to go through all of this. Food choices. How do we decide? Do we have that much control? We might have some. We might not have very much at all. But we're going to find out what influences us. People do not make choices without some sort of influence, all right, whether it's friends, family, the media, history, tradition, culture, you name it. Food choice is based on a variety of different factors, which we will dive into today. And then understanding the food choice factors will greatly impact a person's wellness over a lifetime. Because if it impacts your negative food choices, that will impact your health going forward. If it impacts you positively, you'll lead more of a healthy lifestyle going forward. Culture. Food habits are a result of cultural influence for the most part. Culture is a combination of beliefs and social customs of a group of people. And then culture, as you can see with my little picture, is influenced by geography, religion, technology, the media, history, school, work, and social values. But culture, it does evolve over time and with the immersion and collaboration of different groups. Now, what are the popular food influences? First, historical, ethnic, regional, religious, family, friends, the media, financial influences, money, emotions, reward or punishment, individual preference, agriculture, technology, economics, and politics and education. Now, these are a lot of influences that can affect our food choices. Let's dive into it a little deeper. Historical influences. Culture evolves with historical events. People and groups travel the earth and visit new places. The sharing of ideas, materials, crops, and foods are the basis of trade. New settlements across the world begin new growth of foods. It happens all the time when the English came over to the Americas and settled the colonies. When Spanish influence went into Latin America, and when the trades, even when Marco Polo from Italy started getting spices from Asia. Many food products have historical ties to a region. When you think of pasta, you think of Italy and the Mediterranean. When you think of tacos, you think of Latin America. When you think of potatoes, you might think of Ireland or England. So I already mentioned a lot of these. Ireland and potatoes, Mediterranean and olives, wheat, barley, oats, rye in early America. Anything you eat probably had some sort of historical influence at some point. Ethnic influence. Every culture has their own type of food, and we can usually brand that particular culture with a food pretty easily. If I were to say ribs, you might think Midwest. If I say, collard greens, you might think Southern food or African American. If I say pasta, you might think Italy. Ethnic foods come from racial, national, and religious culture. And that religion usually is tied from a particular area of land, and that's all based on food availability. And then a lot of the foods that you have within a culture, pride is often associated with these specific ethnic cultures and becomes a staple in who they are. People love to say that they can prepare Icelandic food or English food or Chinese food or Oriental food, right? Wherever in the world you go, they will be proud of their food. Some foods in one culture may not be normal in another. This goes back to taboo foods. Some people might eat things in Africa that may not be eaten in the United States or in other popular Western cultures. You go to Australia and they might eat a food that you might not think is normal. And that's how culture and ethnic influence has a great impact on people. So some examples: Latin American food and culture, Mediterranean food and culture, Caribbean food and culture, and then Oriental food and culture. So usually we can associate them pretty well. All right, regional influences. Okay? The area of the world or a particular country may impact your food availability. So I'll look at the United States, for example. New England, you're going to have a lot of seafood. You go out to the Midwest, there's no bodies of water out there, so they have a lot of barbecue, a lot of beef, a lot of corn, farm products. Okay, you go out to the Northwest, more seafood, different types of seafood, salmon. Then you move to the Southwest, you're getting more towards Latin America. You're going to have impact there. You go to Florida, you're going to have Spanish culture and Caribbean culture start to impact it. Then you're going to have in Louisiana, where there's a popular French culture that impacts their food and availability. So also within specific regions that I mentioned earlier, specific crops might grow better. In New England, cranberries grow very well, for example. And in every culture, in every region, there's a specific staple food that is commonly grown. So, example, rice and beans, very popular in Latin American culture and in the Caribbean. You have potatoes, very popular in Western Europe, England, Ireland. Pasta, Mediterranean. Rice, you go over to Asia, or even in the Caribbean and Latin America. Corn, almost everywhere in the world that grows corn. The United States is one of them. Or just fruits and vegetables that are grown. A lot of citrus fruits are grown in warmer climates across the world. So, gave you some examples. Here are some more. Okay. And just break it up by region. Food is different. So when you go visit a place, sample their food, and you'll really get an idea of what part of the world you are in. So regional influences continued. Here's some more examples. New England, seafood, chowders, cranberries. Southwest, tacos, tamales, corn, beans. Northwest, salmon, rice, foods, common in Oriental culture. All right, because they have a huge Asian population that moves there. It's closer to get there across the Pacific. Then the deep south in the United States, collard greens, cornbread, fried food, barbecue, biscuits and gravy, okra, beef. Right? Those are all, again, very, very popular. Religious influences. Now, whether you're religious or not, right, any practicing religions could influence your choice in foods. Okay? Certain rules and religious laws may forbid certain foods, and I'll give you some examples here in a moment. Muslim religion does not eat pork and fasts from sunup to sundown during Ramadan. Seventh-day Adventists, they're vegetarians, and they don't drink alcohol, tea, or coffee. They believe that those are drugs that have negative effects on the body, and we were not meant to take those in. Okay. Orthodox Jews, they eat kosher foods or foods prepared by their laws, and they also don't eat pork or shellfish. Christianity follows rules during Lent, such as not eating meat on Fridays or giving up a certain food during that 40-day period. And then the Hindu religion sees cows as sacred, and they forbid eating of beef, although most followers are just vegetarian in general. They won't eat any animals. The family. Right? Most people's first start in the world is their direct influence with their family. Now, families take on all shapes and sizes, so it's whoever has a direct impact and who you live with will have a great impact on your food choices. Okay? So your first direct influence, many experiences, including eating, what's available. Okay? Family is affected by culture and history. So we talked about those two influences before. Now you're really seeing a specific family that might prepare foods based on their culture and their history. Ethnic foods become very, very popular. I've had the opportunity to teach a variety of students from all over the world, and they always talk about the different foods in their culture. And I've had the opportunity to mix some of those, such as sancocho from the Caribbean or the Dominican Republic, but then also had some Moroccan soup, and we've made food from Asia and other Latin American countries. Portugal is very popular in the area that I live. Have had a lot of Portuguese food. Family values will impact health choices. So if a family lives a healthier lifestyle, chances are the child will start eating foods that are considered more healthy as well. If a family eats out a lot, that child will learn to eat out a lot. If a family eats more processed foods or higher fat foods or what we would consider more unhealthy foods, that child will develop unhealthy habits. Family finances also impact what's available. Where do you get your food? How much can you afford? Okay. Sometimes people think that eating healthy is more expensive. It's not. It depends on where you shop, but it's a perception, and finances can affect that. Families may have 2-parent, 1-parent, or a range of people in it, and that will impact finances, how many mouths there are to feed. Okay. And then families may be busy. We're an on-the-move society where kids are constantly going to activities, and parents are working sometimes 1 or 2 jobs or working different hours, and the time in which you eat and how much you can eat during a specific time could impact can they produce foods that are on the go, or are you just going to go hungry? And then just the parent's lifestyle altogether, will impact a choice. The apple does not fall too far from the tree. So anybody that has a significant influence on you will impact your food habits. Friends, peers. Friends are often chosen by common interests, and that can include types of foods. I'm sure we've all met that friend where we both like our pizzas and or a similar food, and we share that. And because we share that in common, we might spend time together. Social situations can lead to overeating as well, or just eating in general. So examples include like a family party or a get-together or a summer barbecue. If you're offered food in a situation, you might eat or take in calories that you wouldn't normally. If you go to the movies, you might get a snack now, even though you didn't want that snack, you might get it anyway. Different experience. If you're offered food in a social situation, you're more likely to eat it. Okay. Friends that make healthier choices will often eat better together. All right. We become a mixture of the people that we hang out with the most, and our food habits are definitely directly impacted with it. So any social gathering that can offer easy to prepare foods, which can lessen nutrient quality. So if you're going to a party or foods that are prepared very easily, fast food, you're more than likely going to be eating unhealthier foods. The media plays a large role in what we eat. Okay, from the internet, the radio, television, social media, whatever's put out there, all right, which is a lot of information, all right, that can impact us. The average person will see about 5,000 advertisements a day. That's a lot. And a lot of those are going to be from the big food corporations. Okay. Now these can be on TV, the internet, billboards, social media, posters, you name it. There's all kinds of advertising ploys that marketers use to get you to buy their product. Okay. Commercials by businesses, they're designed to get consumers to buy food. So if they're constantly getting your attention, it was designed that way. Okay. Advertisements will always make foods look appealing. There's actually all kinds of tips and tricks. You can find that online with a simple search. Okay. And just to be aware, the media could distort information about food and whether or not it's healthy. They use key phrases such as organic or sugar-free or fat-free. But just because it's missing some ingredients doesn't make it healthy altogether. So we got to be careful on how the media can influence our decisions. Finances, money. Money runs the world, or so we are told. Okay, we constantly go to the grocery store, we order food. Even nowadays, it's easier to go on Uber Eats or Grubhub and have everything delivered. Okay, remember, food needs to be purchased for consumption. It's not always free. Someone has to pay for it. And the amount of money a person has over time will have a direct influence on the impact of buying certain foods. Okay, limited funds may impact some healthy foods, or buying in bulk, which makes it cheaper over time, or buying fresh foods, which are better for you in general. And then some foods, they may be expensive and not fit into a person's budget. So, example, the status foods. You may not get them during normal times of the year that you would normally eat them for celebrations or special events. Let's discuss the emotional influences that factor into our food choices. So remember, hunger is triggered by the brain, and the brain can decide what we crave and when. through chemicals and responses through our body. So because of that, a person may handle their stress by eating comfort foods. These include sweets, desserts, fatty foods, and fast foods. Why? Because those foods will trigger chemicals such as dopamine in your brain that says, "Ooh, I want more of that. It's good. It's good for my brain. It makes me feel better." Okay. And then also emotional influences. People may associate, foods and bad experiences and never choose to eat those foods again. So if you have a bad taste in your mouth, that might stick with you for a very, very long time. Okay. And then people may develop a distaste or a love for food based on culture or experiences. So again, it goes back to association. But if you do not like it, a perfect example is when you're younger, you may not like vegetables or fruits, but as you get older, you develop a taste for it. So it can change as time goes on. Individual preferences. Every person is different. We're all made up different. We release different amounts of hormones and chemicals throughout our body. We change. The world is a diverse place. People develop likes and interests over time and with experience. So whatever you're brought up with your family or your friends or you experience through the media, that will impact your individual preferences. Okay. These choices are a result of time, convenience, any personal situation, education, and reaction to the food. So what you know about it, what you like about it, what you've learned about it will all impact whether or not you choose to eat it. And then people with medical issues may choose to add or avoid foods that will either help or hurt them. Okay. And then lastly, I mentioned it previously, you might develop a taste for something as you get older. You may not like it as a child. It doesn't really fit your palate. But as you get older, you appreciate it and your body craves it and wants it or needs it. Agriculture, huge, right? It's the growing of food and development of crops to feed a population. Okay, it's largely determined by the region, which is impacted by soil fertility, water availability, consumption, and then climate and weather, farming knowledge, and just human work, what's available. So if a good combination of all of those factors, you're going to get a lot of food produced. Okay. Certain crops may grow better in certain climates. Look at citrus fruits that grow well in warmer climates near the equator. And then you also have hot, humid conditions where rice can grow. It all changes, and the farming seasons can range depending on where in the world, and winter in the northern hemisphere is summer down in the southern, and vice versa. So growing seasons will be different. And then popular crops within a region are often the staple food for cultures that are associated with that region of the world. Technology. Technology cannot be diminished in this fact. Technology is what affects food availability across the globe. Growing in technology has allowed for more foods to travel the world. It impacts packaging, refrigeration, appliances, transportation, indoor farms, seafood farming, and then tools just to make food creation and cooking easier. The more we know, the more we create, the easier it gets to create foods and develop the products that will sustain a huge and growing population. Okay, and what's really impacted our health across the world is that the ways of making and producing food have now been shared across the globe. Now, whether it's advantageous or negative towards a health population would be a different story. Technology allows for foods in one part of the world, such as China or Southeast Asia or Mexico or other areas of Latin America and South America, Africa, Europe, North America, to travel across the world and get to and feed a population in another group. Okay? And Technology has allowed for us to create safer food, keep it from disease or pests, and make food last longer for a growing population. Politics. Everyone loves politics. Said no one ever. Politics, it's just the government's way to enact laws of overseeing the production and distribution of products. And laws can also dictate safety methods on how to keep food safe and help prevent the spread of disease. Okay? Political decisions can also control tax subsidies to farms to help them during times of drought or famine. And it can tax food production companies, all right, so we can continue to feed people that may be hungry, or help subsidize areas of food companies that are struggling. Okay, and they can increase or decrease production and sell their food to other countries as a political device to gain revenues for a country. Economics, not to be necessarily confused with politics, but it does play a role. Okay, food is a large industry that many businesses use to make a lot of money. Okay, but a human workforce is needed to produce and distribute that food. Okay, those people are paid. Okay, so a combination of resources, products, and tools are needed to produce the food. If resources are not available, the amount of the food can decrease, which can cause problems. Supply and demand. Less food available, less money brought in for that food. Less money to be able to use for products, tools, and resources. And then those people can't purchase products such as food as well either. Now, if a product's resources increase, the food costs will go up, and vice versa. And then food businesses, they work to produce food as fast and as inexpensive as possible to benefit consumers and boost profits. Now, that can be great for consumers, but it can also be negative for consumers depending on the type of food. You know, if the food's not necessarily nutritious or nutrient dense, the consumer could suffer, but the business would prosper. Education. Education affects the world and affects everybody in the decisions that they make. Okay? Knowledge is power. Better decision making can come from greater knowledge. The more you know, the more you understand, the more you can evaluate a decision and then make a proper one. And knowledge, it comes from idea sharing and experience. So people now in this world, it's so interconnected, they get ideas from other people and then they come together and you share all the knowledge that you have, whether it's about food, technology, how to produce it, how to cook it. All of that knowledge can be shared now almost instantaneously. And better education means better decisions. Okay? And then having a basic knowledge about food and how it impacts the body and how to make food choices is key to long-term health. So having a basic idea of how food impacts you, okay, and how it can make you feel, and how it improves your body or hurts your body, right, will impact your choices later. Okay? And the many poor health choices that people make, it just comes from ignorance or a lack of learned habits. Remember, you get things from family or peers or your environment first and foremost. So if you're not taught, you're not educated about proper nutrition or food choices, you might struggle with it down the line as you enter adulthood. All right. So we're coming to the end of our presentation. Let's review some key points. There are several factors that can influence food choices by people. Hunger is not always the primary driving force of what people consume. The social factors of food choice include family members, friends and peers, and the media. The mind can control food choices through emotions, personal preference, personal experiences, and food being used as rewards or punishments. Agriculture, technology, economics, politics, and education strongly affect food availability and costs. Now, to close out the presentation, I have a few remarks. Okay. It's important to understand that everything plays a role into what causes personal eating habits. Okay. all your surroundings. Okay? Sometimes we're not exactly in control of all the food choices or decisions that we make. Okay? Behavior is constantly being influenced by outside sources, as I had mentioned. The media plays a large role, businesses play a large role, your environment plays a large role, and anybody or anything that impacts that environment will play a large role. Self-reflection and education can overcome behavior influences. So the more you look into what you want to accomplish with your nutrition or health goals and how you educate yourself on how to get there, you can overcome negative peer pressure or poor learned behavior habits from an early youth. Establish goals and future purpose to help overcome eating habit complications. So if you have a purpose and you have a physical health goal that you want to reach, more than likely you will establish eating habits and healthy habits that will lead to those goals. And then you can overcome any complications that you may have had. So if you want to reach a certain weight, or you want to reach a certain fitness level, or you want to lower your A1C for diabetes, you have those goals, you're going to stay on track with your eating habits, and you're going to log your food, you're going to educate yourself, and you will overcome any complications that can arise from poor choices.